Welcome to the second edition of On the Record. We are back with the voices and the faces of four men from different professions who are going to share their stories of either being bullied and harassed in the workplace or witnessing it. My name is Linda Crockett, and I am the founder of the Canadian Institute of Workplace Bullying and Harassment Resources, located in Edmonton, Alberta, serving all Canadians. I am a social worker, a trauma therapist, a consultant, a trainer, a coach, and an advocate for psychological safety in all workplaces. I have been working tirelessly to break the silence, the shame, the stigma, all those things that keep this abuse going, the things that keep enabling the abuse to continue. I have tried many different platforms over the years to build awareness about workplace bullying and harassment. This particular platform is here to show you that those who are being bullied are actually strong, intelligent, educated, articulate, and very capable of speaking up for themselves. This isn't about the meek and the mild. This is about the strong, but psychological harassment can wear anyone down over time. I hope the following stories are going to inspire you as much as they inspired us.
Hello everyone, my name is Darien D'Orsay. I am an Alberta Sheriff, firefighter, Canadian Ski Patroller, search and rescue member, to name a few. Early on in my career, I started noticing an interesting trend, and that was people who were determined and dedicated and had a drive to change, a drive to make a difference or find success in their workplace actually didn't have such a good view to certain members. This was something that crept up on me very quickly and was something that surprised me. Very, very quick, I started realizing that there's individuals that see this kind of personality, this kind of work ethic as a threat. And for me, was something that surprised me. You know, you are a friendly individual that says hello to everybody. You say good morning to everybody. You do everything you can. You put your neck on the line for your team. However, that's seen as an individual trying to get promotional gain. So for me, early on, I started noticing that individuals started talking a little bit more. I started noticing that, I started looking at me. People started gossiping a little bit. It wasn't until the one day that I noticed that there was a group text. There was some messages that were going back and forth, and I was not part of the group chat. It was something that I found out I wasn't supposed to know about, but it was about me. It was about my work ethic. My background, I've always had a dream to be in law enforcement. I've always wanted to be a first responder. This is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that I knew getting into the working world was going to be something. It's going to be a storm. I have so much energy and so much passion that I'm going to bring. I want to make a difference. So it came as a surprise. I'm starting to find people aren't coming to me for congratulations and thank yous. I'm finding that people are coming to me and saying quotes, and a notable quote was, "You're making waves." So for me, that really stuck to me, because making waves, I'm here to make a difference. How am I making waves? So this progressed until one day I came into work and I decided to do a proactive patrol. And so I did a foot patrol around the building just to make sure that it's secure, make sure there's no vandalism or broken windows or slashed patrol vehicles. And I came back in and realized that that alone was enough to offend certain individuals. So me just being proactive now was enough for individuals to kind of look at me in a negative light. Now, this ended up becoming a problem for some, to the point where one day I came into work and a coworker had locked me in the cell block with him and continued to go on to tell me that I was a brown nose, I was a wannabe, I have no friends, I'm a tryhard, a kiss ass. These are words that will stick with me forever, because for me, I'm doing everything I can to be the best I can be for my team. But here I am in a position where I'm physically locked in a room with an individual that is trying to intimidate me, getting in my face, telling me that I'm not allowed to leave. Wow. Me being an individual that is so determined and passionate to make a difference is now in a situation, the first time in my life, where I might physically have to get into an altercation with a coworker. So I stood up, take the high road, put my keys in the door to leave. That individual grabbed my keys, told me to sit back down. I'm not leaving until he's done. Wow, what a shock that was. I left that evening. I went home. I thought to myself, you know what? What's the point? I'm making these waves. I'm trying too hard. He's right. Why should I take those assignments? Why should I be the best version of myself if it means that I'm going to lose friends? So there I was the next few weeks, months, year, where I stopped taking assignments. I stopped applying myself. I stopped doing what I could do and showing my potential, because friendship in my mind was more important, because quite frankly, I'm going to have nobody. This was the mindset that I had. I'm a new officer in the world. I want to do everything that I can. And me being a good officer was wrong. So from there, I started going into depression. This is where I started realizing that, what? Maybe I'm not cut out for this job. Clearly, no matter what I do, I'm creating enemies. The words that these individuals had rang through me to the point where I debated giving up my dream. This was something I'd worked towards my entire life. And the few words from these individuals was enough that I contemplated just giving it up. So from there, moving on into how I dealt with this, speaking with a supervisor at the time felt like just the wrong thing to do. As men, you have this persona that you have to be strong, you have to be hard, you have this hard shell. You can't show that, a little bit of name calling is going to get to you. You're an officer. That's the problem. This is why so many men don't speak out, especially in the law enforcement or first responder world, is because you have to have this shell that's hard. You can't show emotions. But that would have saved me months. That would have saved me years. After I spoke to my sergeant sat me down and he said, "You know what? I noticed a change in you." And I sat there. I said, "Sir, what are you talking about?" He said, "I noticed that ever since certain incidences have come up, I've noticed that your behavior, your demeanor, everything is starting to change." From that point on, I decided to do something I never thought I would do. And I had the strength to actually open up and talk to him about the experiences that I had. And from there, things started to change a bit. I didn't realize that people actually acknowledged the good that I was doing and saw the hard work that I was putting in. My supervisor, my sergeant at the time, he left me with this. He said, "What are you doing this job for? Are you doing this job for yourself? Or are you doing this job for friends?" And wow, I sat there and I thought to myself, my goodness, at the end of the day, I'm doing this job for my community. Regardless if somebody's threatened by my demeanor, by my work ethic, what am I doing this job for? So that in itself, I decided to put an end to bullying in my workplace. I stood up to every situation from that point on. I confronted my bully. I had that conversation with him, which took incredible strength because it's an individual that made me contemplate my ethic, my skills, my abilities. And having that conversation was incredibly hard, but it was something that has changed exponentially. My work ethic is back. I have that breath of fresh air. I'm able to work my job, but it wasn't until I spoke about it. It wasn't until I brought it up. I spent years in a position where I hated that version of myself and was quite frankly worried where I was going to go. Where was my drive? So workplace bullying is incredibly important because that's something that took an individual who is so passionate to make a difference and make that individual believe that it wasn't worth it. So from there, thank you.
Hi, I'm Richard Stevenson. I've been in the HR field for almost 9 years. I was headhunted actually to help with some HR, building fundamentals in an organization which did not have human resources prior to my arrival. So I took this challenge, moved out to this place, and did what I thought I knew best, HR. So there I was doing HR, practicing HR, trying to get things kind of up to spec with what the organization's mission statement was and what they wanted. But I found I was getting a lot of pushback. I was a new guy. I was the HR guy. I was the new HR guy where HR never was before. So of course I was ready for that. People had their guards were up. So I was very cautious of that. And again, I'm in the new territory. I'm the new guy. I have to kind of win people over. But I guess my first experience, which I came across, which I guess really took the wind out of my sails, was when one of the managers confronted me. And it wasn't that normal confrontation where, I've been working in HR for all these years. It was different. I felt it kind of in my bones. It was like, whoa, this man's very hostile. Like, he's not happy with me. And he expressed how he felt about me, how he felt about my role. And again, this was 5-6 weeks into the new role. Like, he didn't know me. Like, all he knew was me walking into the building saying hello, smiling, but I had, I guess, the stigma of my title of being the HR manager walking in there, and then being, again, I mentioned this before, the new person. So again, this confrontation took place. This is the first incident, and it was quite intense. Like, the words that were exchanged were, and I'll always remember them, and I'm going to repeat them because every time I say them, they seem to kind of lessen the blow every time I think back on them. But he said, "I can't wait for you to fall off your high horse and hit your face on the pavement, and I can't wait to see your teeth fly." And I was like, okay, everyone has their bad days. I'm still sitting there thinking, okay, and I was like, have a seat, can we? And he's like, no, I don't want to talk to you. You're going to ruin my life. You're here to disrupt everything that I have worked at building in the 15 years I've been here, And I was like, okay. And, he was angry. I looked at him. I kind of did that visual scan. Like, he had the white knuckles. He was mad. I can just tell he was agitated. He wouldn't sit down. And he's this person standing right in my exit, my door. And I'm thinking, and the whole time he's kind of holding this coffee mug, and I'm thinking, is that going to come flying across the room? And I really was outside my comfort zone for a first time in a long time in my profession. Like, I was trained to be able to, go through the conflict resolutions, deal with kind of the upset employees. I've done terminations, and they're not fun. They're not nice when you're walking someone out the building. But I was not prepared for this confrontation. So he left. I kind of sat there and quickly digested it, replayed it in my head, and was like, okay, again, new in the role. I didn't want to be like, start waves. I'm not going to write this guy up. I thought, okay, I can talk to him. He came back within like 4 minutes to give me, to tell me off some more. I had an audience, like, people can hear him. There was like, oh my gosh. So that happened all within this 20 minutes. Then kind of some people kind of trickled in. How are you? I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Don't let that reflect, the whole organization on him. But, well, that's kind of the way he is. But just be careful. That's always the way he has dealt with things. He has bullied people into what he wants. So I was like, okay, but it continued. The next day started, and it was just like, okay. So I had to, do the due diligence, send my email out to the director, be like, okay, we need to I'm going to have to enforce the respectful workplace policy here, like, because this person's not giving in. I was called to my director's office. Director of corporate services were all there, and they're like, they said, that's just kind of the way he is. We've just kind of maneuvered around him. He's going to be retiring in the next, 5 years, I think they said. And I was like, oh my goodness. And that's just the way he is. So I was like, okay. And they're like, and the comments that came at me were like, you need thicker skin. You need to build resiliency if you want to stick in this line of work. And again, I'm thinking, what am I doing wrong here? Okay. And so I reevaluated everything. I started thinking, okay, am I approaching things wrong? Am I walking around thinking like I'm on this high horse? Am I giving off this vibe of like arrogance? Like, what am I doing wrong? How am I dressing? Am I dressing too city because I came to a smaller little area? Like, what am I doing? You go through all those in your head, and they eat at you, and they actually kind of break you down, because you're like, okay, maybe I'm too smiley. Maybe people think I'm phony. So, but it didn't help that situation. From there, everything started snowballing in this situation, because I didn't have the support from leadership. They were like, don't deal with it. Don't worry about it. grow thicker skin, build resiliency, and I'm like, okay. So when you didn't have the support, and then it was almost like a template for everyone else, like, hey, so and so told off the new HR guy, he just bends like that. And it became a very impossible task for what I was trying to do. And very simple thing, one of the very basic things of one of the HR fundamentals is, and like making sure policies are in place, making sure there's a safe, a respectful workplace free of violence and harassment. That's what I was there for. And meanwhile, I was having people coming in and they were just, my title, my position was nothing to them. And it was, and again, the more I tried to correct it, the more I was, and I've heard that, stop making waves. Like, if you want to just stick around here, just don't make waves. And I'm like, okay. So again, I really tried to downplay everything. And again, the more I tried to downplay it, or the more I tried to just look past it, let it, fly through the radar, there I was, just in this dead end kind of situation. So I had to sit back. I had to look back and be like, I have to reevaluate. What am I here for? What did I come out here for? So I sat down here. Everything I thought I came out here for, everything that I thought this organization represented, I'm not achieving. And it had filed me down at that point to really questioning myself. I had lost a lot of my drive. Like, it was hard to go into work. It was very tough. My spark was gone. There was something missing. Like, I knew I was struggling. I had lost direction in my role. I was just like, it was, I was letting things go because I was like, well, they're not going to deal with it. Let it happen, because I'm not going to deal with it, because I'll get tumbled under the bus. So I was a victim, but I was also letting other people become victims. And again, everything I practiced in HR was not here. So this person who asked me how I was doing, I just broke down. I was just like, yeah, no, and this wasn't me. So I went home that evening and I really thought about where I was at. Like, and I was like, okay, I need to get out of this situation. I wasn't in a healthy place. Like, I'd go home emotionally, because it's like, not there. And I can't fix this organization on myself, because again, I didn't have the support. So what I did about it, I removed myself from there, because I couldn't. The toxicity level was too high was too high for an army almost to deal with, So, and I felt bad because I felt I failed a lot of employees, because a lot of them did come to me and they're like, "You're doing such a good job. Like, you're fighting the good fight, But I couldn't do it alone, and I did feel like I failed. So what I'm trying to learn from that, and this was just within the last 18 months of my career that this has happened. I want to be able to not allow that to happen with myself again. I want to be able to be that person where people can come to, and I'm going to help them. I'm going to make sure that our managers are following the respectful workplace. Their coworkers are, our organization, the service, or the corporation as a whole. Like, everyone is safe, because I went through that where I was not safe. It's, if anything, I can take away, it has to be bettering for anyone who experiences workplace bullying. It has to better them moving forward, because it's not something that you ever want to have happen to you. So I would hope that you would never, ever want to do that to someone. I would hope that this would never happen to, you would never want to see this happen to someone else. And just moving forward in my career and in my profession, just learn from that and just work on the whole be kind basis. And life is hard as it is. It's hard enough. We have to come to work. Let's all try our best, to just be kind and create that safe place.
My name is Yuri Beaulieu. I support people who've experienced workplace bullying and harassment. I want to start by saying that unfortunately workplace bullying and harassment is common, and I say this with some intent. What I mean by this is that almost everyone at one point in their career will probably experience some form of workplace bullying and harassment. And there's really no job that's insulated from that fact. So, I mean, the question really is why? Why is this a widespread problem? And as a society, why are we still doing this? Don't we know better? I want to start by saying that the patriarchy, that concept is everywhere in our systems, full stop. And the language tied to that system presents us with obstacles when dealing with bullying and harassment that can be more acute for men. For example, I'm not sure when, but I wonder where and when the idea of chain of command entered the workforce. This concept, which is wholly military in nature, can easily be found in the navigation of workplace harassment policies. It structures the steps of what to do if you're bullied and how one navigates a policy. And those steps can be as important as the issue of harassment when men themselves enter this system. Questions like, what have you tried to do to solve the problem on your own? Why didn't you talk to your supervisor and follow the chain of command? Or are you certain that this is an issue? Are common questions that men face when they enter this system and come forward with complaints about harassment and bullying in their work environment. You know, it's hard to boil down or simplify what common tactics or common themes that you may see in terms of bullying and harassment, but I do want to highlight, I think, some of the more broad strokes, which is around the concept of ability of an individual and the questioning of their ability, the ignoring of their ability, and the framing of their ability, because these are very important things when harassment takes place in the work environment. Much of the harassment in the work environment starts in creating an individual that isn't performing well, that somehow is an outsider, or they are not like us, regardless of their actual performance metrics. That's actually not important. This can start by accusing someone of errors, complaining that so-and-so slows a team down, or you set expectations that are individually specific rather than employee normative. But the fundamental part of the harassment is actually making the individual in question believe that they are also performing inadequately. This is commonly referred to as gaslighting. It is a very pernicious, it's very common, and it's probably the hardest form of harassment to prove and to investigate. The days of open air yelling and screaming and threats in the workplace are definitely not as common, although they still exist. Non-verbal intimidation, one-on-one meetings where individuals are told only the negative aspects of their performance, passive-aggressive comments in group settings, or simply questioning why so-and-so did something a certain way, even though they completed the task and they did it well, are much more common ploys in the work environment. It fits into the me narrative. The issue is there's always something wrong with me. In the case of men who are expected to solve their own problems, as much by men as others in the workplace, harassment often goes underreported or goes unreported for quite some time. This means it can go on for months or years as individuals suffer in silence. To finish off my discussion around gaslighting and the narrative, often when an individual finally comes forward to say, I need to talk to someone about a particular issue, this is usually the exact moment when the narrative around the performance and their lack of being a good employee also makes its round to human resources or to their managers if it hasn't gotten there already. To recap, if you look at employer respectful workplace policies, you will find almost all of them have levels and or chains in which individuals must or should report. Please go from point A to point B, and all of those policies come with definitions in which we will objectively measure what harassment means to us. This often does nothing for bullied individuals. In addition, most of those policies are short on details regarding outcome. What can one expect during investigation? What can one expect if their claim is substantiated, or if it is not substantiated? Those issues are silent when people enter these systems. So to be frank, often we see very little resolution in harassment investigations. And that, I think, is one of the largest issues in the employment context. Sometimes people are moved, sometimes people are severed out. In the more egregious cases, you may see the harasser be fired, but often the victim of harassment returns to the work area and tries to be future focused and to move forward, as the investigation, which is based on the balance of probabilities, cannot differentiate between harassment and the performance upon which the narrative has been built on this individual. In my job, I work in supporting people as they navigate this system and these issues. They are difficult, they are daunting, and often they are overwhelming. Surviving the system is also something to recover from, not just the harassment. And as a society and as workplaces, we need to do better. Thank you.
For the most part, all of my variety of work experiences have generally been interesting, satisfying, and positive experiences. I've had a lot of different jobs, from hospitality to medical sales, and from mediation to coaching. I'm a principled man who always believed in treating other people well. So whenever I started a new job, I always went out of my way to find a way to connect with anybody so that I could create goodwill, and it always helped make work life easier. So this approach has helped me create good working relationships with my managers, my supervisors, and my colleagues and peers. So I never really experienced workplace bullying, but it happened in a place where it would be least expected. Not that you should ever expect to be bullied anywhere in any workplace, but you'd think it'd be less likely to occur working for a government-funded organization that provides human services to the public. A service provider that promotes itself as experts and leaders in the field in providing client-focused, customized services, training, and supports to people with barriers and disabilities. As an adult education professional with a background in sociology, psychology, spirituality, conflict resolution, training, and coaching, I found great pleasure in facilitating and coaching my clients to success. And as it is with many abusive relationships, it started slowly and gradually, and then it got worse. First, it shifted into overly critical, negative environment. Then it started to become unprofessional and inappropriate. Then from there, it grew to threatening and harassing. Then it became abusive and toxic. I used to have an inside joke with one of my colleagues that laughing was not allowed, and we're not ever supposed to have fun on the job. So on more than one occasion, when joyful laughter was heard in the workplace, management came by and scowled. And so I asked myself, why are employees singled out for harassment and bullying? And sometimes it's the same reasons. On the schoolyard, there's something different about you. You're different in some way. And it's the same thing in the workplace, but it's not the typical things that you dress funny or you look different. It could be because someone's threatened by you, by your abilities, your performance, your education, your experience, your talent, or just that you're really into your job and enjoying the work and maybe not making others look as good in comparison. One of the reasons that I was bullied is because I disclosed a disability, and I organized to have my disability accommodated at no cost to my employer. And my employer signed a disability accommodation agreement with me. And they used that to delay my accommodations and as another way to harass me and to bully me. When I was confronted with the shock of being fired without cause, I didn't want to let go of the job. We had just started with a new group of people, and I had a strong urge to follow through despite all the bullying, harassment, difficulty, and abuse that I had suffered. And I thought I could get through it, and I thought I could make it. But after a few days of not working there, I finally accepted it, and I was surprised to feel this huge wave of release and peace wash over my body. I finally relaxed and was myself for the first time in over a year. I didn't realize how stressed out I was or how much stress and pain I'd been carrying. Immersed in the abuse and bullying, my mind was telling me that I could still find a way to do it, but my body was telling me that it was too much. I had mixed emotions when Linda first asked me to participate in this workplace bullying awareness campaign. A part of me wanted to avoid it and not talk about it. The part that said, "What are you thinking? Guys aren't supposed to talk about it. Well, you can embarrass yourself. People, especially other men, are going to think that it's a sign of weakness or something to be ashamed of." It seems like as a man, we're supposed to pretend that it doesn't bother us, or that we didn't let it get to us, or that it didn't have an impact when it did. Since we're boys, we get the message that it's expected of us to just suck it up and be a man, keep our emotions inside, that we shouldn't complain, we shouldn't make a big deal about it. But this is wrong. When we allow it to happen, when we don't challenge it, we give up a piece of ourselves. And each time we lose a little self-respect and a piece of our human dignity. Those who would bully us, whether it's on the schoolyard or in the workplace, they count on it. And each time we let them get away with it, it emboldens them to do it some more. In my situation, I challenged only some of the bullying, the most obvious things, like the unfair workload, the inaccurate performance reviews, unrealistic deadlines, their failure to accommodate my disabilities as they agreed to, and other promises that were not kept. But the moments of shocking unprofessional conduct, disrespect, and just plain rude, offensive behavior that I did not stand up to is what I regret the most. Never have I been spoken to and disrespected in such a way in any work environment. I look back at those moments and I replay them in my mind, except this time, I think about what I would have said or what I would have done differently. But one thing is for sure, this experience has been like a vaccination that has inoculated me from ever being susceptible to being bullied again. I will never allow it to creep up on me, and I have such clear boundaries from this experience that, in a twisted way, I have made the very best of this and brought some good from it. So my way of dealing with this frustrating workplace bullying was to take back my power and to hold my former employer accountable by filing a human rights complaint on the grounds of discrimination based on disabilities and failure to accommodate. I included unpaid overtime work and workplace bullying in that complaint. It took a few years and many letters written back and forth, but in the end, I settled for a very large settlement, and it brought me a sense of closure and satisfaction. Vulnerability is how men show their strength, and talking about it is how we authentically connect to each other men who know what it feels like to be bullied on the job. So in response to this experience, I've been advocating for others who've suffered workplace bullying. I've been helping others get workplace accommodations for their disabilities. And I have brought an awareness to the people that I work with. And I'm happy to talk about this as part of this campaign.
All of these men have demonstrated to you that the bullying is not about those who are targeted. These are strong, independent, intelligent, ethical, hardworking men. And the fact is, the harder you work, the more you do, the harder you try, the worse the bullying gets. That has got to tell you something right there. Happy, competent, confident people don't bully. That's got to tell you something as well. Over the past 11 years, I have seen thousands of men and women. And I have to tell you that men worry me. Men worry me because we've done them an injustice. We tell them not to say they're hurting. We tell them not to reach out for help. These guys showed you that. And when the men finally do come in for help, they are so depressed, they're suicidal. They're having heart attacks. They're getting very sick. We need to do better with our men. We need to teach our sons, our brothers, our cousins, our nephews, our husbands, that, like one of the men said, vulnerability is strength. Ask for help, stand up, take a stand. You're not alone. There's lots of resources out here.
My name is Joangel Concepcion, and I'm the founder of the Trael App, but I'm also a workplace bullying survivor. You just heard from 4 brave men about their experiences with toxic workplaces. If there's anything that we could learn from their stories, it's the importance of documentation. Trael is a mobile app that helps employees keep track of bullying, harassment, discrimination, racism, or any unwanted behavior in the workplace, all while monitoring overall wellness. It's a private, secure place to log your thoughts daily, upload supporting images and documents, and keep track of your mental health. Then you can export your report and assess your input, or take it to a legal or medical expert for review. If you're experiencing any unwanted behavior, please know that you're not alone and that there's help available right at your fingertips. Please visit traelapp.com to download the app and begin storing evidence today.
Employees, men, women, all around the world, we want you to know that you're not alone, that it's not your fault, that it is okay to talk about it, and we want you to reach out for help. Wherever you are in the world, we can connect you to a resource. Employers, we want you to know that there's highly qualified, highly experienced, trauma-informed resources available to you as well. Do the right thing. This movement is in motion. There is no stopping this change. Be on the right side of this change. Psychological safety in every workplace. Thank you.